I walked into that engagement party with a bottle of champagne in one hand and a text message screenshot in the other, knowing I was about to destroy 2 lives. But only one of them deserved it. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Cream-colored cardstock, gold foil lettering, the kind of elegant script that screams money and careful planning. Marcus and Olivia request the pleasure of your company. I stared at it for a full minute before the words sank in. Marcus. My Marcus. The same Marcus who'd been telling me for 8 months that he wasn't ready for labels and needed to take things slow. I met him at a coffee shop near the university where I teach art history. He was reading Murakami, or pretending to, and kept glancing up at me over his paperback. When he finally approached, coffee in hand and that crooked smile I'd later learn was his signature weapon, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. He was articulate, funny, and had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He told me he was a freelance consultant, worked mostly from home, traveled for clients. It explained why he was always unavailable on weekends, why he never wanted to stay over at my place, why our dates were always during weekday afternoons. For 8 months, I built my schedule around his availability. I declined invitations to events because Marcus might call. I kept my weekends free just in case. When my sister asked why I never brought him to family gatherings, I made excuses about his work schedule. When my friends questioned why I'd never been to his apartment, I told them he was renovating. I became an expert at filling in the gaps he left with explanations that made sense because I wanted so badly for it all to make sense. The invitation had been forwarded to me by mistake. A mutual friend who knew me as Lily, the art teacher, and had no idea I was also Lily, the woman Marcus has been seeing behind his fiancée's back. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent months wondering why he kept our relationship in the shadows, and now I knew, because he'd been planning his future with someone else the entire time. I called in sick to work and spent the day researching Olivia Chen on social media. She was everything I wasn't: polished, successful, the kind of woman who wore white blazers and posted inspirational quotes about entrepreneurship. Her Instagram was a carefully curated gallery of business conferences, charity galas, and couple photos with Marcus dating back 2 years. 2 years. I scrolled through dozens of pictures of them together, Marcus looking genuinely happy in ways he'd never looked with me. There were photos from vacations I'd never heard about, dinners at restaurants he'd claimed he'd never been to, moments of intimacy that made my stomach turn. The worst part wasn't the lies, it was realizing how small I'd allowed myself to become. I'd convinced myself that being his secret was romantic, that our stolen afternoons were more meaningful than traditional relationships. I'd built an entire fantasy around breadcrumbs, and now I was staring at evidence of the feast he'd been having somewhere else. I spent the next 3 days in a haze of rage and humiliation. I drafted and deleted a dozen text messages to Marcus. I considered calling Olivia directly, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. What would I say? "Hi, I'm the woman your fiancé has been sleeping with, and I thought you should know?" It felt cruel,